Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by WFC Welterweight champion Max Griffin. Max, how are you?
I'm good. How you guys doing today?
Doing good. Max, thank you for stopping by. I know this is fight week and you're a very busy man, so I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk with me today. Before we get to your fight for WFC 7 on November 16th against Fernando Gonzalez, let's go back to the beginning of this whole adventure that you've had of getting a fight. You were originally supposed to fight Andre Fili, then that fight fell through because Fili got a call up to the UFC. Then you were supposed to fight Scott Smith. Scott Smith got injured, and now you're fighting Fernando Gonzalez. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to where the whole thing started. Andre Fili, you were supposed to fight him. Just curious, when you got the call saying that Andre Fili wasn't going to be able to fight you on November 16th because he got a call up to the UFC, how did you take it? What was your reaction when you got the call that Fili was no longer going to be your opponent for WFC 7?
Man, it was interesting. My promoter actually told me before, we always thought that he might, he was going to go to the UFC, we just didn't know when. Mm-hmm. And Del Silva and those guys, Sean Shelby from the UFC, told him that it wouldn't be till early 2014. Mm-hmm. So there was a slight chance that he might go, Mm-hmm. But promoter called me and told me, he's like, this is that call. And I just knew from there, like, okay, well, who's next? You know what I mean? And I don't care who I fight as long as it's beneficial to me. And that was a good fight for me.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Well regarded. Mm-hmm. So that was a huge fight. And then, we kind of looked around the area. There's not really many. There's guys, but there's not guys that'll benefit me. Mm-hmm. Like that I'm going to get rewarded for beating. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys I'm a top dog in this area, in this region. So if I beat someone that I'm supposed to beat, it doesn't help me. You know what I mean?
Right. Definitely.
So right now, I want to beat names and guys with better records, bigger records that are legit. Mm-hmm. So they came up with Scott Smith and UFC vet, Strikeforce vet, a lot of fights, and was going to fight him in 85. So made that choice, and he fell out as well. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of been a roller coaster as of late, but I'm focused on myself and what I have to do to my opponent, not what they have to do to me. Mm-hmm. So the new guy, Fernando Gonzalez, had a team quest, great camp, and he's a vet, was in the Strikeforce, WEC, and he's ready to go. Mm-hmm. So it's a good fight, and I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. Back to Andre Fili for just 1 second. I'm sure when you got the news that Andre Fili was called up to the UFC, I'm sure you were very happy for him because that's his goal, and obviously that's your goal. You would love to be in the UFC, and you would have taken the same opportunity had it been presented to you of pulling out of the fight to make the jump to the UFC. But when you got that call, were you a little disappointed that this fight isn't going to take place anymore, and given the difference in weight, this fight will probably never happen? So were you a little disappointed when you got the news that you weren't going to fight him?
Yeah, at first, I wanted him. I wanted to beat him. I know I can. So I just wanted to, you know what I mean? But he's a friend of mine. We're friends. So I'm very happy. I was excited for him at the same time, At first it was like, damn. It was like, he made it. Like, that's one of my friends making it, and that's huge. Mm-hmm. So I'm more happy for him than I am disappointed, Mm-hmm. We could always train or spar or something to get that out of the way. But, I was ready for him.
Mm-hmm. Just curious, why did you want that fight against Fili? Because from the outside eye, people would look at the fight like, yes, he's a great fighter, and yes, obviously he made it to the UFC, but at the time when this fight was offered to you, he was basically right on the cusp of getting into the UFC. But just curious, why did you want that fight? Why would you take that fight? Some people might say that it was kind of a lose-lose situation for you because if you beat him, you were supposed to beat him because you're a lot bigger than he is, and if you lost to him, well, you just lost to a guy who's a 145er. So why did you want that fight?
No, I agree. Actually, he wanted to fight more than I wanted to fight. Mm-hmm. They wanted to fight because he's well regarded around here. He's real good. Right. And he's a top dog. So he made a comment a long time ago about fighting me, and I made a comment of fighting him. And, it's what the people wanted to see, and he had a lot of buzz. So for me to fight him, it was all over Access TV, and people knew about it, you know what I mean? It was on Inside MMA, they were talking about the fight. So, and I mean, he just, I think, got, like, one of the athletes of the year or something. Top 25 or 25 in Sports Illustrated. So, just fighting him, you know, even though he was a lighter weight, it would have just got my name out there a little bit more.
Now, when Andre Fili was no longer your opponent and moved on to the UFC, did West Coast immediately come back and say, hey, we want you to fight Scott Smith, or did they say, hey, give us a couple days, we'll sort some things out and we'll come back to you? You know, what was the timeline of when Fili was no longer your opponent to when they offered you Scott Smith?
It was relatively quick. It was a Saturday, I want to say. They called me a Saturday morning, and we had a guy, you know, that day. Because, I mean, it wasn't that far out. You know what I mean? It was about a month out, month and a half out. And you still know, time flies, man. These last 5 weeks have been flying. But, you know, who do you got? And Brandon jokingly said something about Scott Smith, like, a few months back, you know. If you ever fight Scott, I was like, yeah. You know, like me, it's nothing personal. I just want to fight guys that, the best guys. Like, I don't benefit from beating anyone that isn't good, or, you know what I mean? You know, I like fighting guys that are dangerous and have status. So, and we looked to my managers, and there wasn't really anyone around. You know, they brought up Tito Andrews too, but I whooped them. So it wasn't a close fight, so there's no reason to fight him again. You know, I didn't have anything to gain from beating him up again. So it was him, Scott, and someone else. I think they even brought up Justin Baseman, but he's locked in Bellator. Right. So if we looked around, there wasn't, you know, the pool was shallow for me to actually, like, you know, get rewarded for fighting. So I could beat up some scrub, but that's not even, I don't like doing that, you know.
I see.
That's not my MO. So we came up with Scott, and we thought he'd be the best name, and, you know, we're both strikers, and we thought it would go down. So we set that up. He called, we agreed on the weight, and made it happen. They actually wanted to do catchweight at like 180 or something, but I wanted the belt, so decided to do the 85. I want to fight the higher weight, might as well get another title.
Definitely. Now, what's your weight at right now, and how much we have to cut to make 185? Because from what I know about you, I know you have a big weight cut down to 170, so how is it to make 185? Yeah,
it's a little easier. You know, I still have to diet. Today I'm 188. So, I mean, last week I was 195. I've been kind of doing it gradually because I'm bigger and stronger than I've ever been, because I've been planning on, you know, fighting Scott. You know what I mean? I actually got bigger and stronger for Fili, you know, because I was always bigger and stronger anyway. I wanted to make it that much worse, you know what I mean? How much of an advantage.
Now,
but it played well.
Now, give us the timeline from when Scott Smith goes down with an injury and then your opponent gets changed again to Fernando Gonzalez. How long of a timeline are we talking about from
I was fighting Scott Smith for a few weeks.
Okay.
And then I was actually at a fight in Sacramento, and someone asked me about it. I think Mark Matthews asked me, he's fighting Scott, and I was like, what? Kind of looked at him kind of weird, you know, you know something I don't know, and other people were saying different stuff. Like, the rumors were, you know, that I'm fighting him, and blah, blah, blah. So I talked to the promoter, and apparently he hurt his finger at work, but he hasn't decided if he wasn't going to fight, you know what I mean? He was still trying to give it time and seeing if he could heal before he really said anything. So we gave him that week, and he couldn't train, he said. So I texted him and asked him what's up, and, you know, he said he's not going to fight me if he can't train. You know, I mean, it is what it is, you know. I wouldn't fight me if I couldn't train either, so. I agree. But it's a bummer, but everything happens for a reason, and we'll see what happens in, you know, later in the year, next year. That's what I do, win this interim belt if I'm not off and abroad. They mentioned me fighting Scott in February. But, you know, all that stuff, we'll see what happens. This could be my last fight. Well, here, you never know.
Right. Now, when you got the news that Scott Smith wasn't going to be able to fight, Did you kind of give West Coast a timeline of, find me somebody in X amount of days to fight me, or did you kind of say, hey, if you come up with somebody the day of the weigh-ins, I'll be ready to fight? Was there a timeline that you gave them to say, hey, I need some time to prepare for somebody else because I've had 2 opponents fall out, or was there no timeline given? You were okay with, hey, if it's 1 day's notice, I'll take that too?
Yeah, they kind of had an opponent. They had a backup.
Okay.
That was Fernando. They told me when I called, I was like, Brandon, what's up? Brandon Ware. I was like, dude, is he not fighting or what's going on? And he was like, dude, trying to tell me the story. He's like, just in case he doesn't fight, I met this guy at Bellator when I was down there, and Team Quest, good guy. So he mentioned, fighting him possibly, you know what I mean? So he had like an alternate. So he must have known about it already or something, probably before me. But he had an alternate. Brandon's he's not a last. He always has some kind of plan, or he'll make it happen. You know what I mean? He's not going to leave me high and dry without a quality opponent. So I was thankful for that. He said the name, and it's really fight whoever. What's his record? Okay, let's do it. I said I don't want to fight anyone that's not going to benefit me.
Right.
It's a waste of my time.
Were you surprised they offered you him instead of Mark Matthews? Because that kind of made a little sense if Matthews and you were going to fight for the interim title because you were called up to fight Scott Smith and then he got injured. But Mark Matthews was originally his opponent, so he was kind of the odd man out. Were you surprised that it was Gonzalez and not Matthews?
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that was negotiated, but I never got offered that fight.
Okay.
Like I've heard people talk about it. But Brandon never brought it up to me, so I don't know if it was brought up to him and it didn't go down, or management, or it was, I have no idea. He wasn't even offered to me. So.
You mentioned that you saw Mark Matthews at a fight, a local fight, and what did you say to him? Because obviously, he was the odd man out, as I mentioned earlier, because he was supposed to fight Scott Smith, and when your fight with Feely was scrapped.
I was upset. I understand, but it wasn't my choice.
Right.
I mean,
obviously,
I had something to do with it, but, I look at it like if you're going to fight, or I'm going to fight, I'm going to fight.
Yeah.
It's business. If they're going to say you're not going to fight, or, he's not going to fight, and I didn't even know that he's not going to fight, they could have found him another opponent. You know what I mean?
Right.
But as far as me, I'm not going to not have a fight because, someone else is getting X'd off the card. That's just... That would be a bad business choice for me.
That makes sense. It's
personal, and I told him, like, dude, I didn't choose it, but, I chose to fight Scott, but they didn't say, even if they did, well, Scott, Mark won't fight. Well, they could find someone for him. But, he was upset, which I understand, because, I did steal his opponent, but my opponent's been stolen twice.
Right. Yeah.
So, it's his business.
The interim belt is going to be on the line on November 16th. Why did they add that interim title to the equation here? Is it because they want a 5-round fight as their main event for the show, or do they want somebody locked in so that they can get a title unification? Why was that offered to you?
Probably both. I know I wanted it because I was planning on fighting the 5-round fight for a title.
Right.
That was my plan. Get another title, and that's that. So as Scott got hurt, I did ask for it, and he said, you don't just ask for it, because, that's not how it works. You don't just, well, I want to fight for a title. I was only fighting for the title, so that may be why, but he brought a quality guy in, and we did mention fighting Scott Smith for the unification, So that may be like a guarantee to fight him.
Right. Yeah, I see. Now, I'm curious, your fight against Keto Andrews, you had the WFC belt was on the line, and also there was a white belt on the line. What exactly is that white belt?
That's the ISCF West Coast Championship. That's the International Sport Combat Federation. So basically the commission, like the athletic commission, they have belts. There's like a West Coast, East Coast, and my coast, United States. So it's a pretty heavy belt. It's it's regarded highly as far as them. You know what I mean? The commission runs everything, so to have one of their belts is important. It's good and it looks nice too. I like it.
Yeah. Now, did you take that from Keto Andrews as well, or was that a vacant title?
That was up for grabs.
Okay.
I just took that one.
Okay, I see.
170.
On November 16th, you're going to be taking on Fernando Gonzalez. What are your thoughts about him as an opponent?
He's good. He's seasoned. You know what I mean? He's had a lot of fights. He's 20-10 from a great gym down south in Temecula. He's good. You know what I mean? They're flying him out, and they usually don't fly people out to fight guys at West Coast. You know what I mean? So it shows that they have to go far away to get a guy for me, which is good. You know what I mean? You're not just pulling some guy, but I mean, he's on a 3-fight win streak. He's tough. I'm going to take care of him and beat him.
Now, going forward, what's your plan weight class-wise? Are you going to go back down to 170 once this whole 185 title picture thing gets sorted out, or are you planning on moving forward as a middleweight? What exactly is the plan?
Yeah, I want to go back to 70. We'll see how this fight goes, but these freaking 85ers are huge, man. You know, I mean, I walk around like 200, so 85s are like 220. I mean, these guys are giants. So, I mean, I'm strong right now, big and strong, but if I was a skinny 85, I don't know what I would do, you know?
I see.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see how this fight goes. You know, I mean, this is the best shape I've ever been in my life. And I know everyone's just cliche thing for people to say, but I really am. And I'm going to be scary just in a few days. Just strength, explosiveness, and speed is going to be another level. But we'll see how it goes. But, you know, I'd say 70 because that's what I'm used to. But you never know, you know. I just beat this guy and, you know, fight Scott, beat Scott, and just, you know, I'll just see. You never know.
Your goal is to make it to the UFC. You had a brief stint on The Ultimate Fighter, so that was kind of your first taste of what it's going to be like when you finally make a return to the UFC. But is that the plan here? You know, is that kind of how you see your path to getting a call to the UFC? Do you see it as winning this fight and then taking on Scott Smith, unifying the belts, and then that'll be enough to get you a call there? Or do you think it's going to take more or less? What do you think?
Hopefully, you know, you never know, really. I mean, I've been waiting for a long time. I mean, but, you know, I don't want to say waiting for a long time, but you never know. You know, it's about roster space and the right time and beating the right guys. So, and you know, you got to get your record up too. So, I mean, they know who I am. Dana thought I was exciting on the show and wanted me in there. You know what I mean? So they know who I am. They like me. So I just have to prove myself to get back there and handle business. And that's where I want to go. I don't want to go to Bellator. You know, I mean, I don't know. Anything can happen, but my goal is the UFC. You know, once you go to Bellator, you're stuck in Bellator.
Right.
You don't make the transition. It's either or. And since I've been in the UFC, you've been around it, and, you know, I want to go back. I know I'm good enough to be there because I was already kind of there. So,
Max, on November 16th, how do you defeat Fernando Gonzalez?
I'm going to finish him. I'm going to finish him for sure. I don't know how. It might be a body shot. We'll see. I'm going to finish him for sure, though.
Max, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
I do. First for the fans, I thank you guys for, you know, all your love and support. You know, it means a lot to me. I would be nothing without the fans. You guys didn't buy tickets if you didn't support me. If you didn't, you know, if you didn't want me to fight, I wouldn't be where I'm at. You know, fans is what gets you to the big show. You have to be known, and you gotta sell tickets. You have to be the man in your area, and I am, and it's because of you guys. And I do have sponsors, but I gotta read them. Hold on a second.
Okay.
You there?
I'm here. Fire away.
All right. Shout out to my sponsors: Pacific Audio, Lexani, Rolling Big Power, JP Outfitters, Vamp Fight Gear, Fusion Fitness, Three Buddhas Coconut Water, Max Nutrition, Fallen Angel Tattoo, Cobra Source Magazine, Lana's Egg Whites, MMA Video Productions, Stone Light Services, War Fuel, Mario's Barbershop, and my gyms, Marinobles, Kickboxing, Team Carnage over there, Morrissey's Elite. I love you guys, and I thank you guys for everything you guys do for me.
Max, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck November 16th at WFC 7 against Fernando Gonzalez.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.